There's a bird visiting your yard every day that most people barely notice. It's not the cardinal, it's not the chickadee, it's the mourning dove. The one that seems slow, gentle, and unremarkable. The one you've probably walked past 100 times without thinking much about. But that quiet, plain-looking bird on your fence post is hiding 5 things about itself that most people never learn. Things that would completely change the way you see it the next time it lands at your feeder. It can produce something almost no other bird on Earth produces. It builds nests so bad they shouldn't work, and yet its population is one of the most successful in North America. It can fly faster than you'd ever guess just by looking at it. It can eat in a way that would be physically impossible for most birds. And it might be the exact same individual that's been visiting your yard for years, longer than you've ever noticed. Welcome to Birds Minds. Subscribe if you're new. Here are 5 things about the mourning dove in your yard that will change how you look at it. Starting right now. You've seen it 1,000 times without really seeing it at all. It's the soft gray-brown shape perched on the power line, the one that scatters off the lawn when your car pulls into the driveway, the one that never quite registers as anything worth a second look. Cardinals get noticed because they're the color of a stop sign. Blue jays get noticed because they're loud and a little rude about it. Chickadees get noticed because they're bold enough to eat from your hand. The mourning dove gets none of that attention. It's quiet, it's plain. It moves like it has nowhere urgent to be, and most people file it away as background noise before they've even finished looking at it. That's exactly the mistake this video is here to fix. Because underneath that forgettable exterior is a bird doing things that sound almost invented, biological feats so unusual that only a handful of species on the entire planet can claim them. Nesting habits so reckless they shouldn't work, and yet somehow do, on a massive scale. Speed it shouldn't have. An appetite that defies its size, and a lifespan long enough that the dove outside your window right now might already know your house better than you do. 5 things. One bird you've been ignoring your whole life. Let's start with the first one. Here's the first thing most people never learn about the bird in their yard. Right now, that mourning dove pecking at seed on your lawn might be making milk. Not metaphorically, actually producing it, inside its own body. It's called crop milk. Made in the lining of the crop, that muscular pouch in a bird's throat usually reserved for holding seeds before digestion. During breeding season, that same organ transforms into something closer to a mammary gland, producing a thick, protein and fat-rich substance that both parents feed directly to their chicks in the first days of life. This isn't something most birds can do. Out of roughly 10,000 species on the planet, fewer than 5 have ever been documented producing crop milk. Pigeons and doves, flamingos, male emperor penguins. That's essentially the entire list. Which means the plain little bird eating birdseed in your yard belongs to the same rare biological club as a bright pink flamingo standing in a lagoon. A connection nobody would ever guess just by looking at either one. And that milk isn't incidental. It's what allows a pair of doves to raise up to 6 broods in a single season, feeding newborns instantly without needing to hunt down food first. The seed-eating bird at your feeder is quietly running one of the most efficient parenting systems in the animal kingdom. That milk isn't just a strange biological party trick. It's the engine behind something even more remarkable. Most birds spend weeks each season on a single nesting attempt. Build, lay, incubate, feed, wait for the chicks to fledge, then start again if they're lucky. A mourning dove doesn't have that kind of patience, and thanks to crop milk, it doesn't need it. Because the parents can produce food instantly without ever leaving to hunt for it, chicks grow fast and fledge early. That single shortcut collapses the most demanding stretch of parenting into just a few days instead of weeks. The result is a breeding pace that sounds almost aggressive by bird standards. A single pair can raise up to 6 broods in one season, 2 chicks at a time, over and over, as long as the weather holds and the food keeps coming. Do the math, and one pair of doves can be responsible for a dozen new birds before summer ends. All from 2 parents who never once had to catch, kill, or forage anything to feed a newborn directly. So the next time you see a dove pair at your feeder in early spring, understand what you're actually looking at. Not just 2 birds eating breakfast. The start of a reproductive machine that barely slows down until the season forces it to. Now here's where the story takes an odd turn. Because you'd expect a bird this efficient at reproduction to at least build a decent home for its young. It doesn't. A mourning dove's nest is, by almost any standard, one of the worst pieces of construction in the entire bird world. a loose scattering of twigs, thrown together so thin you can often see daylight straight through the bottom of it. There's barely a cup shape to hold anything in place. There's barely a structure at all, and the locations make it stranger. Mourning doves have been documented nesting on windshield wipers of parked cars, in-house gutters, on narrow ledges with almost no flat surface to speak of. It's not unusual for eggs to simply roll out of a nest too flat to contain them, lost before they ever had a chance to hatch. Any other species building this carelessly might be facing extinction. Somehow, doves reuse the same fragile nest year after year, barely patching it between broods, betting everything on volume instead of craftsmanship. It shouldn't work. And yet it does, spectacularly. Which raises an obvious question. If the nests are this bad, how is this bird still one of the most abundant in North America? The answer isn't in the nest at all. It's in what the dove chooses to prioritize instead. And that's where the story gets even more interesting. The answer is simpler than you'd expect, and once you understand it, the terrible nest actually starts to make sense. A mourning dove isn't failing to build a good home. It's making a calculated trade, whether or not you'd call it thinking in any conscious sense. Every bit of energy that could go into weaving a sturdy, well-insulated nest gets redirected somewhere else instead. Into producing crop milk, into laying again almost immediately, into pushing out brood after brood before the season ends. The nest isn't the investment, the offspring are. It's a strategy built entirely around volume instead of protection, and by any honest measure, it's working. Mourning doves are now estimated at around 350 million individuals across North America alone, making them one of the most abundant birds on the entire continent. Somewhere out there, a raccoon or a crow is raiding a flimsy dove nest at this very moment, and it barely matters. The math was never about protecting every single nest. It was about producing more chances than anything could realistically destroy. So the next time you spot that flimsy platform of sticks tucked into a shrub in your yard, understand what you're really looking at. Not bad architecture, not a failing parent. You're looking at one of the most successful reproductive strategies in the natural world, disguised as something that looks like it shouldn't survive a strong breeze. Look at a mourning dove sitting on a fence post and you'd never guess what it's actually capable of. It looks soft, round, almost sluggish, the kind of bird that seems like it would struggle to outrun a determined house cat, let alone anything with real teeth or talons. That impression is completely wrong, and it's wrong in a way that should genuinely surprise you. In level flight, mourning doves regularly hit speeds exceeding 55 miles an hour. That's faster than most cars are allowed to go through a residential neighborhood. Their flight isn't lazy or meandering either. It's direct, powerful, almost aggressive once they commit to it. Watch one launch off the ground in a hurry, and for a split second, the silhouette can be genuinely hard to distinguish from a merlin or a small falcon. Birds built specifically for speed and pursuit. The body that looks bulky and clumsy at rest turns out to be shaped exactly right for cutting through air at full effort. It's just that nothing about sitting still on a fence post reveals that. The dove is essentially hiding a sports car engine inside a shape that reads as harmless. Everything about its resting posture is a kind of accidental disguise, one that predators, and every casual birdwatcher, consistently underestimate until the moment it takes off and proves them wrong. That speed comes with a sound attached to it, and the sound turns out to matter almost as much as the flight itself. When a mourning dove takes off in a hurry, its wings produce a sharp, distinctive whistle, the kind of noise you've probably heard 100 times without ever wondering why it happens. It isn't an accident of feather shape, and it isn't just the byproduct of fast movement through air. It's a signal, and other doves treat it as one. Researchers have found that this wing whistle functions as an alarm call in its own right, separate from any vocal warning. When one dove flushes and produces that sound, nearby doves react immediately, taking off themselves even if they never saw or heard whatever triggered the first bird to flee. They're not responding to the threat. They're responding to the wings. That makes the mourning dove one of a very small number of birds whose flight feathers double as a communication system, refined over countless generations of predators, testing which birds could escape fast enough and which ones couldn't. Every time you hear that whistle in your yard, you're not just hearing a bird leave in a hurry. You're hearing an alarm system built directly into feathers, doing exactly the job it was shaped to do, passing a warning through sound alone, faster than any bird could possibly shout it. Now here's where the story takes an odd turn. Because you'd expect a bird this efficient at reproduction to at least build a decent home for its young. It doesn't. A mourning dove's nest is, by almost any standard, one of the worst pieces of construction in the entire bird world. A loose scattering of twigs, thrown together so thin you can often see daylight straight through the bottom of it. There's barely a cup shape to hold anything in place. There's barely a structure at all. And the locations make it stranger. Mourning doves have been documented nesting on windshield wipers of parked cars, in-house gutters, on narrow ledges with almost no flat surface to speak of. It's not unusual for eggs to simply roll out of a nest too flat to contain them, lost before they ever had a chance to hatch. Any other species building this carelessly might be facing extinction. Somehow, doves reuse the same fragile nest year after year, barely patching it between broods, betting everything on volume instead of craftsmanship. It shouldn't work. And yet it does, spectacularly. Which raises an obvious question. If the nests are this bad, how is this bird still one of the most abundant in North America? The answer isn't in the nest at all. It's in what the dove chooses to prioritize instead. And that's where the story gets even more interesting. Here's the last thing, and it's the one that tends to stay with people longer than any of the others. The mourning dove you see in your yard today may not be a new bird at all. It might be the same one you've been half noticing for years. The oldest documented mourning dove on record was banded in Georgia and lived for more than 30 years. An age that sounds impossible for a small, soft-bodied backyard bird that predators, cars, and weather all seem stacked against. Most doves never come close to that number. Early mortality is real and often brutal. But banding studies have shown, again and again, that a meaningful share of doves that survive their first hard year can go on living far longer than anyone assumes just by looking at them. A dove that finds a reliable territory, a steady food source, a yard that doesn't change too dramatically, has a genuine shot at sticking around for years, not months. Which means the bird cooing outside your window at dawn, the one you mistook for an owl the first time you heard it, might be the exact same individual that's been making that sound in that same spot since long before you started paying attention. Not a stranger passing through. A neighbor you never knew you had. So there it is. 5 things about a bird you've been walking past your entire life without ever really looking at it. A milk producer, in the same rare company as flamingos and emperor penguins. A builder of nests so bad they shouldn't survive a strong wind, and yet somehow one of the most successful breeding strategies on the continent. A bird that looks like it's barely moving until it launches at 55 miles an hour, carrying an alarm system built directly into its wings. An eater capable of packing away thousands of seeds in a single sitting, running a feeding system most animals could never match. And possibly, quietly, a 30-year resident of your own backyard, the same bird, the same call, morning after morning, long before you ever stop to notice it. None of that changes what the dove looks like sitting on your fence post right now. It still looks plain, still looks slow, still looks like nothing worth a second glance. But you know better now. And that's really what this was about. Not the bird, but the habit of looking past things simply because they've stopped surprising you. So the next time it lands at your feeder, take that second look. And if this changed how you'll see it, subscribe to Birds Minds, and tell someone who's been ignoring the doves in their own yard. The background just got a lot more interesting.